Alright, hi guys, this is Duke from US Venture Co. I've been kind of looking online and noticed that there are not a whole lot of Discipline Priest PvP videos. There's a lot of PvE and how to PvE heal and whatnot, but there's kind of a lack of PvP guides as far as how to gem and all that good stuff for PvP Discipline Priest. So I thought I'd make one. Things I want to cover here is going to be kind of specs you're gonna want, glyphs, what kind of gear selections, gems and enchanting, and then kind of finish up with some arena strategies, kind of some basic stuff to get going in the right direction. So to get started here with spec, there's a couple different disc specs you can go with. One of them is more defensively. It's going to be a 60-11 spec. I personally am 53 and then 18 in the Holy Tree. I'm more of a smite spec. Go over what I have here. I have healing focus and then 5 points in holy specialization to increase crit chance. Now here's where my spec becomes a little more offensive. I have the reduced smite holy fire time. I don't really cast heal or greater heal in PvP. It's too long of a cast and too easily interruptible. And then I go down to Searing Light, which increases the damage of my smite, holy fire, penance, and holy nova. This spec I have right here is pretty much made for helping my partner burst someone down. Disc priest in any spec is going to be defensively. I prefer to be, or excuse me, disc priest is going to be a little more defensively. I prefer to be a little more offensive. So this is my holy tree. I got the inspiration talent, as well as Desperate Prayer, which is pretty much a must for any disc. The staples in the Holy Tree that you have to get are the reduced pushback from Healing Focus, the Desperate Prayer, and the Inspiration. These are all going to be huge when you're doing PvP and trying to jump into Arena as a disc. In the Discipline Tree, I start out with Unbreakable Will, and here in the second tier is where there's already some controversy on how you want to spec. A lot of people go for the improved Power Word Fortitude, which is going to increase the fortitude given by your spell by 30% if you have 2 talents in there, and also your total stamina by 4. Sounds good, sounds awesome. However, in almost any high-end arena or arena situation, the first thing that happens is your all your buffs get dispelled against any dispellable class. Any shaman's going to purge you to death. Any other priest is going to just spam dispel you. So I'm personally not a fan of putting talents in there because it seems like 90% of the time my buffs are gone anyways. So instead I chose Inner Focus, which is a must for pretty much any Discipline spec, and Silent Resolve. Next tier down, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just get everything. Now this tier, there's also a little diversity in what you can do. For a 2 spec, I definitely recommend Improved Mana Burn. If you're speccing more for a 3v3 or 5v5, you can get it. You don't need to get it. It all depends on what comp you're running, if it's going to be a long match or if it's going to be a pretty quick one. Either way, I'd recommend getting it, but the argument can be made, and a lot of people do opt out of it. As we go further down, Reflective Shield I do have. This can be... This is a strange talent because, I shouldn't say strange, but it can work against you in arenas at times. I did arenas with a mage, for instance, and he would cast Polymorph, and if we would go up against a lock team and the lock has dots on me, I put Reflective Shield up, and those dots tick back on the lock who was sheeped, therefore breaking the sheep. So in some cases it can work against you. I did run with a rogue, made it a lot less of a problem, so I feel it's a nice talent to have, but again, depends on what comp you're running. Enlightenment, I don't suggest it for the 3 talent points it gives you. The spell haste is nice, but with how you gear, it's not going to make too much of a difference. I think 3 talent points is kind of a lot for what it does. Next, I opted out of Improved Flash Heal and into that was what I gave up. I gave up the improved flash heal for my holy talents, going for a little bit further down for the smite spec. Pretty much you just get everything in the bottom here. I also didn't get rapture because my fights didn't tend to run that long, so rapture wasn't really. I thought 3 talents was kind of a hefty cost for what it does. Penance is a must. The few that are just kind of staples of any discipline tree are going to be pain suppression. You can't be PvP disc without pain suppression. You have to have power infusion. That increases your cast speed by 20%. Divine Aegis is huge too. Every time you crit somebody with a heal, it'll absorb 30% of that crit. So that's, again, definitely helps on healing when someone's getting focused and nuked, and you gotta try and keep them up. Other must-haves are going to be improved power word shield, increases the damage absorbed by 15% of your spell power. That's big. Increases intellect by 15, and just a lot of the stuff down here at aspiration that reduces the cooldown of inner fire, power infusion, pain suppression, penance. I mean, those are just kind of no-brainers. So as far as specs, the discipline tree does have a bunch of wiggle rooms, what you can get and what you don't have to get. Those are kind of the staples of what you need, though. If you want to be a little more defensive, you get rid of the 2 in Searing Light, and probably the 5 in Divine Fury, and put it into Spell Warding, which will increase the damage taken by 10% if you have 5 in there, and then that'll save you a couple talents here, and you can go back into and fill up some of these other talents like Improved Flash Heal or Rapture, whatever you prefer. As far as glyphs, what I run with with Discipline is I use Glyph of Smite, which your smite spell inflicts an additional 20% against target afflicted with holy fire. Like I said, I like to be really aggressive in arenas to help my partners nuke people down. It definitely comes in handy. And then also I have the Glyph of Penance, which reduces the cooldown of Penance by 2 seconds. And lastly, Glyph of Pain Suppression, which allows pain suppression to be cast while stunned. I'd say the Glyph of Penance and Glyph of Pain Suppression are musts. I mean, you can't really get away from those. Glyph of Smite definitely depends on your spec. If you're not Smite spec, don't get this. Find something else that suits your playstyle. As far as minor glyphs, they're really, they don't do much. I have Glyph of Fortitude, Glyph of Shadow Fiend. This one you should probably get, which is receives 5% of your maximum mana if your Shadow Fiend dies from damage. You do get your occasional person who turns to kill your Shadow Fiend instead of CC it, so that's nice to have. And then Glyph of Levitate, just to save me on some regens. So those are my specs. Gonna kind of get into my gear, or how a Disciplined Priest should gear. I go with the full Mooncloth set. I have the Mooncloth helm, the shoulders, the chest, and the legs. I do go with 1-piece satin for the crit. I get my 4-set bonus from the Mooncloth to give me the extra spell power and reduced duration of the Weakened Soul debuff. But I also go with the